Thank you, PJ. It is, in fact, time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from KFAN. We've got Chip Scoggins from Football Across Minnesota and the Minnesota Star-Tribune, and a man who I'm guessing spent time on a burner boat on Lake Minnetonka with a long lens to find out who were on these boats with Summer Splash recruiting weekend for the Gophers. It's Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com. We are presented, as always, by our great partners at Jack's Cafe. Make your reservations at jackscafe.com, jaxcafe.com. We have to start with Summer Splash, don't we, Burnsy? I mean, you don't look very tan. Were you not out there on Lake Minnetonka stalking? Like that? Other 247 reporters would have been out there getting good on-location pictures of what's going on. They'd be at Mall of America. I don't know where they ate. You can tell us. But how are we doing? How'd you survive the first big recruiting weekend for PJ Fleck and company?
You know, I went into it thinking that they can't possibly add like another 10, 12 guys. They already had 16 commits, somewhere around there going into the weekend. Well, just like my wife tells me, I was wrong. And they added another double-digit plus. So they got 26 commitments now, which a lot of this, I think, has to do with them. Just a lot of plan A guys is what I like to say. It's just guys that you shouldn't turn down, and we can get into all that. But it's also just, I'm just coming up for air on the other side because Sunday through I got a text. I was about 5 minutes from going to bed last night, and I got a text from a staff member at the University of Minnesota, which was a link to an Instagram post. And it's like, oh, that kid committed. I texted them back. I'm like, it's 10:30 on a Monday. Like, for this kid, it's 11:30 in Maryland. Like, we couldn't wait till the morning to get this thing out there, but no, it's been very, very busy. A lot of stuff on GopherIllustrated.com. And that's where I'm 2 days away from going to the place over my right shoulder here. If you're looking at it via YouTube here, going up to Lake of the Woods to try to get some walleye fishing in with my father. But that's where the nice part about this is, Guardsy. They've now accommodated my schedule where we've got the annual father-son fishing trip. Well, guess what's not happening this weekend? Summer Splash number 1 was last weekend. Summer Splash number 2 is the second weekend of June. So it's very nice of them to accommodate my fishing schedule to be able to fill my freezer with a bunch of white gold, which hopefully is copious amounts of walleyes. But it's interesting here's what I'll tell you guys about Gopher recruiting. And it's one thing I know that I still hear from Jerry Kill staff members about is they wish they would have had summer official visits.
For sure.
That's always the thing, because if you think about what they do on these Summer Splash visits, it's what's the number one thing that anybody who's never been to Minneapolis wants to go do?
Mall of America.
Mall of America. So you've got them going to the Mall of America, seeing that monstrosity, being able to buy a bunch of clothes without tax, which it's always funny to me when I talk to, say, recruit parents and they talk about the Mall of America. They're like, well, we could buy all these clothes and there was no tax on them. So it's like, I guess I'd never thought about it like that. But yeah, certainly they get to go to Lake Minnetonka and Fleck drives them around on these boats and they get to go hang out by the water. I think they go to 801 Chop House. They'll spend plenty of time on campus at the University of Minnesota. But the point being is that for so many of these kids, if you don't grow up in the Midwest and you grow up in, say, California, Texas, Florida, wherever it may be, I can promise you that these schools have sold these kids in that state that Minnesota is a cold and barren wasteland 365 days a year. You're going to go there. There's snow on the ground. You're going to be in these giant parkas. And for them to be able to have a weekend like it was last weekend, which for any of you that were around, it's 85 degrees, sunny, beautiful. You couldn't ask for better weather. And so I think that also plays a part. And these kids see that it's actually nice up here and there's a lot of things to do. Shoot, I talked to a young man out of San Jose last night and he's like, the first thing that stood out to me was how clean and green it was. And I'm like,
yeah,
boy, don't tell a certain faction of some people that's what it is here in Minneapolis. But yeah, sorry, I couldn't resist the low hanging fruit there. But
man, 5 minutes in. Well, hold on. First of all, I'm shocked that a guy who's wearing a shirt that appears to have multiple in it hasn't concerned himself with the cost of clothes and sales tax. That is a stunning development. That a guy who's wearing some type of shirt and not Fish the band, if you're not watching on YouTube. I'm surprised that you've never considered, that, yeah, especially if you're buying nice stuff. It's crazy to be at the mall, like for back to school shopping. You've got North Dakota plates, South Dakota plates, Iowa plates, Wisconsin plates. Sometimes you'll have Illinois plates. Like, I mean, maybe this is, it's like coming to the Dells. It's the reverse Dells because you can go to Nickelodeon Universe stuff. But, it's a real thing. There's a reason why there's so many hotels right next to Mall of America, and it ain't because the airport's there. It's because people like to come and shop. It's wild.
Yeah, I've heard of businessmen flying in just to buy their suits at Nordstrom's so they can save the couple $100 on the taxes, right? Burns, I to that point, the weather. I mean, I used to always marvel back when I was on the beat and Mace was the coach, and it would be 5 degrees and a foot of snow stacked up, and they're hosting recruits from all over the country trying to sell them on coming here. I mean, that rule change to open up visits in the summer was such a pivot point for the recruiting. Just being able to beat down the narrative that it's freezing year round in Minnesota.
I mean, certainly. I mean, I remember probably 12 years ago when Kill was here, that they had a official visit weekend in November or December. I forget which one. And I remember we had one of the coldest weekends in like a decade. And they had all these kids up from like Alabama and Florida. And I got a phone call while one of the coordinators was driving home that Saturday night. And they were like, there's just no way these kids are coming. They're just like, we can say what we want. Like, these kids are so cold. It's -20 out. Like, it's everything that, again, XYZ SEC school has told them it's going to be. So for them to be able to, in the Fleck era here, be able to have summer official visits to show them, like I said, as many of us listening to this know, I mean, it's a very beautiful place here in the summer. That's why we all stick around here, is because whatever it is in the winter, so be it. But again, I look at the weather that it's been 80-something degrees and sunny. It's going to continue to be that way. And it's always fascinating because you never know what a kid has been told or if he's just never been here before. And that's one of the things I guess I had to open my mind to in this job, which is like, I know what it's like here 365 days a year. I know May, June, July, August, September, very, very beautiful. And for kids to be able to come up here, especially their parents, and say, so this is what it's like, huh? And they can just point to something and say, yeah, it certainly is.
What's the headline, or what is the headline from the commits over the weekend?
The headline probably is they were able to flip a kid from Michigan, which I can't say has happened too many times. A kid from Las Vegas by the name of Maxwell Miles. They were his first Big Ten offer back in January, but then he got a lot more recruiting attention, commits to Michigan. Michigan then takes some more defensive backs that I would say are probably higher rated than he is. And I think he starts to see that maybe he's not the crown jewel of their defensive back class. Danny Collins, the defensive coordinator, safeties coach, remains on him, gets him up here to, I think, the surprise of Michigan. As far as I'm aware, Michigan didn't know that he was coming up here until he put it on his Instagram story over the weekend, and they're able to get that done. The funny part about it is Minnesota also had a defensive back on campus by the name of Andre Hippolyte. Well, come Sunday morning, you know who reports a Michigan offer? Mr. Andre, because Max had flipped. So I think there's, I'm always tinfoil hat guy, and I like to think, Michigan says, oh, well, I guess Max is flipping to Minnesota. Who's Minnesota got in their campus right now? Let me go over to 247sports.com, click on the official visits page. Oh, they got that guy? Let's watch his film. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good. Let's give him a call. And now he's got a Michigan offer, and they're trying to go after him. So anytime you're able to get somebody on the right side of the little brown jug, I think that's probably a good thing. They also took quite a few receivers. They got one. The one they got last night I'm pretty excited about. Carlos Ferguson, a kid from Maryland, 6'4", has a great offer list. You're able to get him. Again, I think all of us agree 50-50 balls haven't been 50-50 balls since Chris Ottman-Bell was in his prime, and it's got to get a lot better there. So being able to get some actual size into the room, I think, was important for them. They were able to fill up on the offensive line as well. But they, in their mind, and I've talked to this about them, it's a lot of plan A guys, where it's guys that you bring in on the first official visit weekend where you just say, we're going to find room. Now, you also have to remember, because I think they have 26 commitments right now, which is the number one volume, I think, of all Power 4 schools for high school commitments right now, which, a lot of this has to do with just those plan A guys. But it's also, you look at how this roster is constructed right now, you're still going to graduate 18 to 20 guys off this roster. In the last 2 portal seasons, boys, they've also lost 20, 22 guys. So if you do the math here, my Tartan High education certainly isn't what it was at Edina or wherever Chip went to high school there in Tennessee. But that's somewhere around 40. So if you sign 26, 28 guys in high school, you still got double-digit portal spots available come January. So I don't think they want to turn away these plan A guys. They're going to take a couple years to develop, but that's the way it's going to go. So if you want to swing on upside, for a school like the University of Minnesota, you have to get in the high school ranks.
How much of it too, Burnsy, is, I mean, we've seen it in years past. I mean, not every one of these commits that they get is going to stick, right? There's probably going to be some that, drop out. So if you're counting on 100% of the guys that commit staying committed, I would add as many as you can and just see where it gets when you're at the finish line, right?
Yeah, every school, including Minnesota.
Yeah, that's not just Minnesota. That's everybody. Yeah.
So you want to take as many guys as you really like as you can, and then you hope and pray to the finish line. Because I know that the famous line that I always get from staffers is the real battle doesn't start until they're committed.
Yeah.
Because now you got to hang on for dear life over the next 6 months to get to National Signing Day, and you hope that somebody doesn't come in with a bigger freshman NIL/rev share offer elsewhere, or a bigger helmet school doesn't come in, and you hope your relationship at the end of the day with the kid and the family can save you in that aspect. But again, I always like this time of year. I like these summer splash weekends just because you can see, what they're trying to go for with something like, say, receiver. Again, they took a couple of guys that are over 6'2". Okay. Clearly they want to get some size into the room. You've got a kid like Jaden Thomas from Vegas, who they also took. He's got multiple verified 10.8 100-meter times. Great. You're trying to get some speed into the room. Like, you're trying to look at each one of these commitments and say, how is this guy going to win in the Big Ten? Again, I'm not going to try to be, I don't know what's the new Vikings GM guy's name?
Nolan Teasley.
I ain't no Nolan Teasley, and I ain't going to give you this in-depth scouting report on each one of these guys. But the point being, you can see why they want to go get this guy and bring him in. And that's the thing I think I always got to tell people too, is just in this day and age, you don't want first and second year players playing a ton. I mean, you'll always have an exception to the rule, but you look at these really good, consistent programs. I mean, you're starting year 3, year 4, year 5 guys pretty consistently across the board. You'll have an occasional year 1 or year 2 guy, but if you're starting a lot of young guys, I think we've seen that over the course of all of our lifetimes. The win-loss record usually ain't going to go too well.
Not in this league.
No.
How good it is. Hey, Burns, you mentioned NIL and rev share.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a sense, because like for the staff and the, Garrett, their GM, it's easy to assign value to guys that are on your roster in terms of how you're going to dole out money. It's harder when you're talking about 17-year-old guys who've never played college football yet.
Yeah.
How much it's got to be a part of the conversation when these guys are committing. Do you get a sense of like how big a impact that is, the rev share and NIL with these summer splash and just incoming freshmen?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say every situation is different. Some kids, it's important. Even over the weekend, I know that there were negotiations. Think about that. You're negotiating with a teenager who hasn't yet played their senior year of football. Yeah. And I know some people listening to this are turning up their nose in disgust. And there's part of me that I get, but it's the reality of college football now. Is these folks got agents or an uncle who doubles as an agent, which then don't get me started on those folks. but it's part of the conversation now. And each one of these kids will be making money. Now, the question is how much money? Minnesota's strategy largely has been, we are not going to pay a ton of money to the incoming freshmen or guys even on the roster who haven't earned playing time yet, which that's how Minnesota is able to retain an Anthony Smith, a Kerry Brown, whoever. You can go still pay market rate for those guys to get them to stay, because to your point, the hope would be that if these guys develop and they become all Big Ten players, or they become really vital pieces of your team in 2, 3, 4 years, well, they like it here already because they stayed for no money, so that when money really does become a part of the equation down the line, that you can offer them something. But Minnesota doesn't have this unlimited war chest. Whereas you look at some of these other schools in the Big Ten, and it's easy to, Chip, you and I were discussing this past week just the revenue from Big Ten schools. And that's where, say, a school like Michigan, they did over $100 million in revenue, more than the University of Minnesota last year. Now, I ain't telling you that's that type of discrepancy in the rev share NIL football roster building world with money, but it is certainly in a different tier than what Minnesota's in.
So these, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so it's these kids that are juniors, some of them already have agents.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's a world that is ever evolving. I'm sure there's people at every institution out where it's like, why do we need to have this? Well, it's because there's money involved now, and everybody wants a hand in the pot, and that's just the way it's now kind of constructed itself here in college football. But even for this class, I really don't think Minnesota is going to be allocating a ton of money to their high school class. Now, again, there's always exceptions to the rule depending upon who wants to come and how much money they have available. But the other thing I would say is, this could be a whole different podcast. We could get Derek Burns on here with it, is one of the things the Gophers pride themselves on is always paying out their contracts. Whereas there are institutions, certainly, we can go up and down the line, especially on the East Coast, that are pretty notorious for not, if a kid signs an agreement, that there's money missing. And then it gets very complicated when there's money missing, where these schools or these NIL collectives can't pay it out. Well, that's one of the things that I've talked with numerous officials here at the University of Minnesota about, is they always pay out. And so, if Minnesota says this is what we can give you, that's what you're going to get. Whereas if you go to a different school, I don't know what their track record is. If it's not at 100%, is it 80, 90, 95? Is it lower? But I've also heard that from an agent or two, by the way, too. That's how convoluted this thing can get in certain aspects, especially in the portal, is like, what are the schools that actually pay out to their players? Because the players also, you can get them on the visit and they can be like, so they offered me, some money here. Did you get all yours? Because I can guarantee those conversations are being held too. I never thought that when we started this podcast, I'd have to get into that kind of wing of the negotiations between players and the collectives and institutions and agents and just parents. The whole thing is crazy. But these are the types of conversations happening behind the scenes. And welcome to just college football recruiting now. It is crazy.
Yeah, to follow up on that, we're going to talk about it. A sit down I had with Mark Coyle to mark his 10th anniversary. He said he can say confidently that this is what he said, that we're one of a handful of schools that have never missed a payment.
Yep.
And I double back. I said handful, like Big Ten. He's like nationally. Correct. Like he said, whatever we guarantee, we raise the money first, and then they get it. We've never missed a payment. We've never told an athlete they're going to get this and not paid him or not paid the exact amount. I'll take him at his word. I don't know how you confirm that, but if it's only a handful of schools nationally that have not reneged on a promise of money, that's a lot of misinformation going on with these guys.
Well, that's where it's, I've even had the discussion with my lovely and handsome members of Gopher Illustrated here in the last 48 hours, trying to disseminate that type of information to where I know that there's a lot of muddy water what is true and what is not with, some of the alleged deals that go on, especially in the portal. If this guy's getting 3 million, this guy's getting 4 million. What did Coy Parrish get out at Oregon compared to what he was supposed to make here? And a lot of it is very muddy. And I know that no one really believes anyone because they want to see the contract for themselves. Which, look, I would love to see it too, but I know that the three of us can talk to people that would know. Now, I understand that also the people think that there's maybe some bias from certain sides, which is why you always try to get multiple sources. A young Chip Scoggins always taught me that one. But it's something where I understand that there's a lot of consternation about it, but it is just the reality we live in. Now, I don't know that I can verify Coyle's claim that they're one of a handful, but I can say I know of plenty of schools that have missed payments to these kids, and that has hurt their reputation. Now, again, they can still offer all this money, but if you don't know that you're going to get actually paid out, the kid has to accept the risk. But it is, that's part of it, Chip, is can you imagine even having that conversation with an athletic director when Mark Coyle took over 10 years ago?
No.
But that's just where we are now, where there's so much money in this bleeping sport and in college sports in general. Again, we're talking about here at the University of Minnesota, you got $170 million revenue stream. Well, everybody wants a slice of the pie, and these players are getting more and more every year. So it's a fascinating world to live in now.
Not spending money that you don't have. I'm going to write that down. I need to start doing that.
That's right.
I need to hold on. I need to give that to my kids as we're trying to put together summer plans. The Gopher checks don't come till the fall. Don't spend it until you have it. Okay, got it. Anything else summer splash related we want to hit on before we hit on one more football topic and take a break? Anything else, Burnsy, we should know about?
I think I would just end with there's a ton of names. Go to Gopher Illustrated. I don't want to get into the minutia of each one of those. That's a separate podcast, but there's a lot of good things that happened in the last 48 hours for Gopher football recruiting. Again, they're able to show these kids that the Twin Cities is actually a fun place to be. It's warm. There's a lot of different things to do. I think that's one of the things that I had never really thought about. Was some of these kids come from areas that are not in a major metropolitan area, where I know that, again, I think Anthony Smith, take for example, I think he's got a partnership with Billy Sushi.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a really cool spot down there in the North Loop area. So they can go show them, there's a lot of different things to do, whether it's sports 365 days a year, whether it's going down by the Mississippi River, whatever you think you want to do, it's within a half hour of where you want to be. And for some of these kids, they're like, I've never been in an environment like that. That's actually really cool. And that's one of the things I guess I've learned that these kids really are into now, this generation of kids, just stuff to do when you get free time from football. So a lot of good things. Again, go to gopherillustrated.com.
My favorite story on gopherillustrated.com right now are the reasons why you should join gopherillustrated.com. I think that's my favorite.
Why do we got to do this?
Way to just make it just a tornado. I'm trying to read about recruits, and there's Burnsy. That shows you I'm on there, and I'm a subscriber, as you know. So I think what you're saying is thank you. Is that what I'm hearing? I know my internet's not always great. I think what you're saying is thank you. All right. So
thank you so much, and I hope you're activating your free Paramount Plus premium subscription that is included as part of your GI membership.
Let me write that down as a reminder too. Okay, don't spend money you don't have. Activate Paramount Plus.
I know you're a big Landman guy.
Absolutely, I have plenty of time to watch all these shows. I'm just oozing time to watch shows that all these streaming services have. Will the Gophers need a new quarterback in 2027? I have to admit, I hadn't thought of this until the last month or so. I guess I'm naive, because we've talked about Drake Lindsay for a number of years now as a guy who is a dude. I think he's entering his redshirt sophomore season, right? This would be his Max William year, his redshirt sophomore season. And he's on multiple people's big boards as a first-round pick. He is, in CBS Sports, a top 5 pick, which got a lot of people's attention. And I saw Nate Tice did a breakdown of him, the old Vikings coach, the old Wisconsin quarterback, who's big into film and one of the best young NFL reporters and analysts we have out there. And He just randomly throws out, oh, Minnesota's got a guy, and then start showing all these things. So what have we made of the hype? Because if you're a Gopher, you got to be fired up about this. Honestly, I don't think there's any other way to look at it, that the national buzz and the NFL buzz has picked up around your starting quarterback. That has to be pretty cool, I would imagine, for fans. Burnsy, how's it been received on your message board?
Well, you've got a faction of them that remember the Todd McShay, Mitch Leidner first round and thought to themselves, I remember how that turned out. Now, no shade to look, Guardsy, you and I are founding members of Leidner Island. I think
still am. I still have a place there.
Well, I'm pretty sure one of those folded up T-shirts in the over your right shoulder there is actually the Leidner Island one that you and Micheletti used to wear together all the time.
Absolutely.
So I think there's some hesitation there, but I would also say, like, we saw at points last year for what he did as a redshirt freshman and some of the throws he was able to make, and for what he looks like. It all goes into, I'm sure, as Nate Tice will tell. I wish, Guardsy, is there a radio show that he's going to be on here later?
Well, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, it's possible that you're going to be able to preview it, a 3:15 radio appearance with Dan Barrero on KFAN here in the Twin Cities. But if you missed it, if you're listening on Wednesday or Thursday, it's available on the Barrero channel of your iHeartRadio app, which is free and easy to use and very easy to download. He was on in the first hour. You'll see it right there. Believe it or not, KFAN's actually been podcasting since 2006. The first podcast I ever posted was Wally Zerbiak from an airplane after he got traded. So we're celebrating our 20 years of podcasting, which is amazing because people think we're behind the times. But anyway, it's something that we do at the Fan, and we're grateful to have the iHeartRadio app to do it. So you go ahead and listen to Nate Tice. We'll see if Drake Lindsay comes up. I'll certainly mention it to the host. But go ahead.
Well, I'm so glad that came up organically, Chip. But I think you can look at Drake and say, I can see the clay now.
Yeah.
Before I give my thoughts, I'm curious to hear where you're at on this whole thing. Chip.
Yeah, I mean, watching him, I think we all said, okay, this is going to be the first Gopher quarterback drafted in forever, right? Now, is it this year? Is it next year? I don't know. I mean, obviously, this quarterback class that's coming out in 2027 is getting a lot of, praise with Dante Moore and Arch Manning, and it's supposed to be a deep quarterback class all the way through. So does that factor into someone's calculus? I don't know. But he needs to keep developing. But I mean, when you look at the tools, the size, the arm, I think the thing that impressed me most about his first year as a starter is that he didn't look like a first-year starter. I didn't see him. The only time I saw him get rattled was Iowa. And yep. I think that was because the defense was so bad. He got sped up and said, I've got to make plays because my defense is not going to stop anybody. I mean, it was 10-0 before you could even finish your first beer in the stands. But that's the only game I thought he looked a little out of sorts, right? I mean, other games got away from him, but he has the skill set. It's just, do you keep developing? I mean, you still, as PJ Fleck says, do you get to that 500 level of understanding where, and I think it was, when we had Coop on last week, he talked about the jump that he made from this first year as a starter to the second year, and it's night and day, and everything, you just become so more knowledgeable and sophisticated about the position. So I want to see what that looks like for him this year, to see kind of what is that jump he takes from first year starter to second year, slow down, all those things, better receivers is the plan. We'll see about the offensive line, running game, those things, because there were times you felt like he just had to do it himself last year, because there wasn't a whole lot of help. So I want to see how that improves around him. But whether it's this year or next year, I mean, he's going to be an NFL draft pick, and I don't know if it's first round, second round. I mean, smarter people than me know that, but I think he has a very high ceiling. I'll say that.
Here's what I'll say is, if we are talking about if Drake does end up becoming a first round draft pick next year, we're in for a hell of a ride this fall because there's going to be a lot of meaningful games in November if that's going to be the case. Because if you have a first round draft pick, plus I think about guys on the defensive side of the ball, such as Anthony Smith, John Nestor, Maverick Baranowski. I mean, we can continue to go down the line there. Like, this should be a really dang good team. Now, I think that the draft Twitter folks are probably a year or two too early. But I will say that there's obviously great clay there. 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 60+% completion percentage, 6'5". I mean, there's a lot to like with him. Now, to your point, Chip, that Cupido talked about, that I think all of us will spend the next few months talking about ahead of the season, is I want to know about the pieces around him. Because if Drake's going to elevate his game, he needs help from the people around him. Can his offensive line actually protect him? Can his offensive line actually produce a run game? Can Darius Taylor stay healthy? Can 50-50 balls for the receiving core actually be 50-50 balls and not 35-65 like they were last year? If it comes together, sure. But it is exciting to actually think about that you have a quarterback that people outside of the Twin Cities that know nothing about Gopher football are like, yeah, this guy's got the potential to be that. Now, that's a scary word in our profession, gentlemen, is potential. Now, it was a great first year for Drake. I want to see what year 2 looks like. I think all of us are very excited to see what it looks like. But I almost think it's not even necessarily about Drake. Yep. I think it's about guys like Darius and Noah Jennings and Javon Tracy, Jalen Smith. We're going to get to know the pride of the Tennessee Vols last year, Bennett Warren at right tackle. Like, if they can protect him and if guys can get open, I think Drake can hit him. But we need to be able to see if those two things specifically can happen, if the Drake Lindsay, let's say the Drake Lindsay plane is really going to take off.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that, I talked about is how he didn't look like a first-year starter.
Yep.
To me, that showed up in, I would have thought a first-year starter in the Big Ten would have a lot more interceptions than he did. I was thinking double digits, and he wound up with, what, 7? 6?
And half of them were in
Iowa. Half of them were in Iowa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to think that, as a first-year starter, and it wasn't like he handed it off a lot. He threw the ball a lot and only had 6 interceptions. That tells you he has good decision-making, good touch, good awareness. As that as a starting point, that you only throw 6 interceptions in your first year as a starter in a power conference, that's encouraging.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Again, I think it's exciting, and it's tough not to be excited. Again, you want to cover a guy like Drake Lindsay, where, I mean, Chip, you said it. I mean, it's been a long time since I had a quarterback drafted. I don't know where we put Ethan Callie-McManus in that discussion, considering he was one of the final few picks of, I think it was, the Washington Commanders late in the 7th round. So technically, I guess they did have an NFL guy there, but it's something to where if you want to build excitement, and again, we already know the questions that when Guardsy and I are in Chicago for Big Ten Media Days, we'll talk about a night in Fayetteville and what that was like. But it's also going to be what has changed. I mean, how are you going to use that as, say your inflection point to build off whatever the next chapter in the Drake Lindsay story is going to be?
All right, let's pause here and talk about our great partners at Jack's Cafe. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the website, jackscafe.com, jaxcafe.com, to make your reservations. I was at Randy Shaver's charity golf tournament on Monday out in Rush Creek. Before we teed off, a guy that I see there every year came up. We were starting to talk about some stuff, and he said, Jack's Cafe, Mother's Day brunch. We were there. Place was packed. I said, how was the food? He said, unbelievable. I said, that's how they do things. And I just loved hearing that he went, first of all. I loved hearing that it was packed, because for a special occasion, there's no better place than Jack's Cafe. They do it as well as anybody, probably better. But it doesn't have to be a special occasion. It can be a date night. It can be a happy hour. It can be a lunch. It can be a family brunch. It can be a company party if you really want to go over the top with it. But I just love, as we are out in the wild, Chipper, hearing about people's Jack's Cafe. I love that people come up to us. We read the emails all the time and the texts and the tweets, but they come up to us and they want to talk about Jack's Cafe because they had a great experience, to which we always say, not surprised.
Not surprised at all. And not only do we hear it, Bill hears it. And I had a phone conversation with Bill the other week, and he marveled at the number of people that come in.
I love it.
And say they listen to the podcast, including there's a woman who lives in a senior center that said she loves hearing about Jax on the podcast. So that made me smile and happy, and he loves hearing that. And so we're formulating some plans for maybe some cool events with listeners, and we hope to have a little more information on that this summer. But we love hearing it. Bill loves hearing it, and we would never steer you wrong. Jax is as A+ as we always tell you it is.
Well, shoot, my wife was scrolling over the weekend, and I have some BuzzFeed thing, and she goes, "Isn't this Jax?" And it's the best brunches in the Twin Cities, and it says Jack's Cafe. I go, "You've been there. We've sat there. We were right there." so yes, it's not just us. It's starting. People are starting to figure it out a little bit more. So whether it is a brunch, date night, anniversary, whatever it may be, go make your reservations today at jaxcafe.com.
All right, let's transition our final topic here. We might get into a couple of other things, but Chip already alluded to it. If you were on StarTribune.com the last few days, you may have read his sit down with Athletic Director Mark Coyle, 10 years into the job, a Q&A. First of all, Chip, what did you guys talk about when the mics were off? Give us the off-the-record stuff first.
Yeah.
Tell us about what he really feels about everything.
Tell me about
we'll read all that other stuff.
in the home office there.
I'll after you hit stop recording, I'll let you know.
Got it. Yeah, we should have done that before.
Yeah. Man, 10 years. That's what I said. In some ways, it feels like 100 years when you think about when he took over the job. I still remember when he took over it. I go back with Mark when he was the marketing guy here, almost 25 years ago. And I was asking about how he's going to market Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber. So, I've known him for, a long time, but his first basically week on the job, he had to suspend a coach, put him on leave while they did an investigation. And that was maybe a signal of what was to come with just all that. I asked him, how would you describe your 10 years? He said, complex. And I think that's probably it's probably a good way to describe it. But no, we hit on a lot of topics, just basically the state of college sports and his department and revenue and just all. I tried to hit on as many topics as I could in a 30-minute window. Is interesting when I walked into his office, he's like, I'm on page 20 of this 111-page proposal by two senators to save college sports, and it just happened. I was out at Vikings practice and I had to run right there. So I didn't see it. It was Senator Cruz and another senator that is trying to get a legislation passed in Congress to try to bring more regulation to college sports. And I asked Mark, because unsustainable is kind of the buzzword in college sports right now. I said, do you think this model is unsustainable? And he said, I do. Absolutely. He said, he's gotten to know Jamie Pollard, the Iowa State AD, over the years. He said, Jamie Pollard said, the only rule in college sports is whatever your university will let you get away with. He said, that's not sustainable. He said, there needs to be more uniformity, less wild West going on. I don't know how you get there because there's so many lawsuits that come up whenever you try to put in quote unquote guardrails. So, but he talked about their financial situation, where things are at, Williams Arena, kind of a lot of topics that we got to.
What questions do you have, Burnsy? Did you read Chipper's thing? Do you read other people's work, or do you just go to gopherillustrated.com?
No, I read it. I guess the thing I would be curious is, again, you mentioned a lot has changed in his 10 years. Yeah. And the battles he picked in his first year versus year 5 versus year 10 are very different. And I mean, we've heard over the years too, his name mentioned with other AD jobs. I think most recently here is with Kentucky.
Yeah.
Considering that's where he was. Where do you think that he's at right now he knows this job very intricately? And I'm sure it's not necessarily what he signed up for, but where do you think he's at right now?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, I think he likes it here. Obviously, he raised a family here. Now his kids are all out of the house. He's an empty nester, so I don't know if that factors into the equation. It's not like he's stuck here because the kid's in high school. But you want to be in either the Big Ten or SEC.
Right.
You talk about money problems. everybody has money problems, but it's better to have Big Ten and SEC money to try to solve money problems. Right. But I did ask him, I was like, Central Administration has made it clear you have to run a balanced budget. Is that even possible in this model with revenue sharing? Because, they brought in that student fee last year and still ran a deficit of $8.75 million. And, some schools do not care if you run a deficit. It's not a problem. I mean, we've talked about it several times. Yeah. So that, that's a challenge that he has that other ADs don't have to deal with. They're $40 million in the hole. Well, just keep spending
every year.
That's not
year over year.
And you guys know how Minnesota works. That's just not, I don't think they're ever going to get to that point. But I do think, I think he sees this is a unique market, but I think he also sees it as has some advantages in terms of being able to, especially in this new age of managing a salary cap. You got a bunch of professional sports all around you to lean on, and I think that those teams have been helpful and with their coaches and administration and trying to figure out how do you run a salary cap. How do you manage this in terms of doling out money? So, but I was interested because I asked him, I said, obviously TV money is the lifeblood of college sports. It's like, how do you improve your fundraising? He said they've had record fundraising the last couple of years. That surprised me. They've done it because I said, do you need a big fish like some of these other schools? And he mentioned Oregon and Tennessee and Tennessee Tech or Texas Tech, how they have these, well-known boosters that are happy to write big checks. And he said, we're in the boat trying to get them. We're trying to, they're trying to land that big fish.
Well, that's why that quote jumped out to me, because he said, we have a line in the water. Was that just general, or do you feel like they've got someone that they've targeted or are looking for? Was that just a general Mark Coyle soundbite, or was that something more specific?
I took it as a little bit of both, that they maybe have identified some people that they could try to put into that role, or ask, try to get to be their version of what these other schools have. But he said they have to work really hard to try to convince them that on the vision that they have and believe in what they're doing. So I didn't get a sense that it was necessarily close, but I think they know who they are, right? they know who the big money people are here in town, and if they could get them, that'd be great. Because I asked him, I said, I see these reports where football rosters are some schools have $40 and $50 million rosters. I was like, is that accurate? Because some of the stuff that we never know, right? People just throw out. He said, I absolutely think it's true.
Yeah. And
I said, what do you tell Fleck? Because he's not having a $50 million roster, right? He's like, it'd be great if you did. But he said, that's what he said. I think we punch above our weight better than anybody in the Big Ten. They're 15th out of 18 in budget.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But that's the challenge too, that Ohio State, Oregon, how many are in that boat? Maybe, let's say 30 to 50 million, Burnsy. Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Penn State.
Indiana now. Probably.
Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Those five. I mean,
Michigan State is probably getting there. I mean, every time I get a press release from them, it's another, quick loans guy that's given $500 billion.
Yeah.
But I think that to Chip's point, it's like that upper echelon, because the team that's setting the pace this year is LSU. Like Lane Kiffin's roster, and I think it's been reported, and by people I trust, somewhere around $50 million. I mean, that's halfway to the Twins payroll right here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. One of the Polads just shivered in Edina. He heard this.
Yeah. Somebody go wake him up at Interlaken, because my goodness. Yeah, but the difference between, like, say, what Michigan and Ohio State will spend on their roster this year, which I'm sure is, say, somewhere around 40 million, compared to the next step down to, say, 35 something million with Penn State, to whatever Minnesota is at in, I'm trying to even think, I don't know what a great number would be to give for them right now, but say around 20, maybe somewhere around there. I mean, you're talking about double the size, and that makes a lot of difference, man. And it's also why I always come back to it, and we talk about it. Like, there is no team that does less with more than the Nebraska Cornhuskers year after year, because they have a 200. I think. Let me look it up. I'm pretty sure they did 215 million in revenue. Like, that is top 5 in the Big Ten type of revenue. Yet here we are, and they've made a bowl game once in like the last handful of years, and Matt Rule's got this giant
twice, Ryan.
now.
Twice, Ryan. They've made 2 bowls in a row.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like, and then you've got a team like Minnesota that continues to be big brother to them, continues to win 7-8 games a year, but doing more with less. To your point, Chip, that Coyle's making there, it's, he does do more with less, and everybody would also love for it to be more. It's just, it kind of is what it is. And so it's interesting to hear, as Guardsy said, that one line about, we got a line in the water, Chipper. The question is, does he got a crappie on? Does he got a bluegill? Does he got a sturgeon? Does he got a nice 30-inch walleye? That's what we're not going to find out until he reels up.
Well, I would love for because obviously he's been here 10 years. That's an eternity in college sports. Like, there's not a lot of when Chip was growing up, the AD used to be the football coach, and he'd stay for another 40 years and go shake hands and the phones. Like, that's now these guys, you just burn out, or you get fired, or you go on to the next thing. And he did come in very tumultuous time off of the football stuff. And the football stuff was his first year. But I would like, my dream, let's just say he's here another 3 to 5 years, because he could retire too, by the way. I'm sure he's got a really nice retirement package in the contracts that he keeps getting extended too. We always joke about PJ's extensions and all those things, but like,
I think Coyle's top 6 in the Big Ten for athletic director money, by the way.
Yeah, he's done great. He's done fine, right? And like I said, once you get one of those jobs, then that job helps you for the next 40 years of your life with all the different incentives and bonuses and deferred retirement compensation and everything. He did a really good job of what I think they wanted him to do when he first got here. Was, we just want to stay out of the Star Tribune and the Pioneer Press and the Athletic.
Yep.
Like, we want the stories to be what's on the field. I mean, how many quote unquote scandals have they had in the Coyle era?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll probably get a text from someone, 0. Off the top of my head, there's not a lot where, like, there hasn't been the negative publicity that kind of, started here, right? Obviously, when you're here 10 years, you're going to hire coaches that don't work out. You talk to him about that, Chip. You're going to make a lot of hirings and firings. You're not going to bat 1,000. I think my point to all this is, I think they have a good football coach. I think both basketball coaches are good. I think their volleyball coach is good. I think their new hockey coach is good and intriguing. The hockey community seems excited about him. They've always been good at Olympic sports, right? Every time I get an email from our guy Trenton, it's another Big Ten champion runner who's advancing to the NCAAs, right? Yep. They've always done really well in those spaces. That's, I think, one of the cool things about Minnesota. I would love in his next 2 to 3 to 5, however many years, I would love it if Coyle had a heel turn in him. I would love it if he just had, bleep you, we're building this at the barn. I'm getting $100 million from this guy, and this is going to be my legacy. I don't think he cares about the legacy, but I think he has enough equity institutionally. He should be able, I think, to really try to go big on some stuff. Will he do it? I don't know. He might not want to fight uphill that much, but I think it's just a unique opportunity here for Minnesota to change the narrative about them, where maybe they don't have to punch up all the time. Maybe they can find a way to really get this thing going in a lot of different sports. I don't know. That could just be the Goldie wearing hat guy in me, who's got the 97 Final Four basketball behind me. But I think it's a unique opportunity where if you get a big fish and you've got some success in all these sports, like, you could really change this place for half a generation.
Well, that's what he said. Yeah. I mean, those big fish donors are huge difference makers, whether it's facilities, whether it's your what you can spend on your football, basketball payrolls for rosters. I mean, all those things. But you're right. I mean, what he's brought is stability. And Paul Rovnek, their fine SID, shared with me. I guess I never thought about it, but him and PJ as a AD head coach football head tandem, longest tenured in Power 4, right. Second longest in Division 1, which, I mean, 10 years. This is PJ's 10th season, right? Coming up. It doesn't seem like a long time until you really realize what college sports are about. Then it feels like an eternity, right. Because there's so much upheaval, so much change. But yeah, he's brought stability. You're right. He always talks about, let's be above the fold. If anybody know above the fold in the newspaper, when you see it in the news, like, let's be above the fold for the right reasons, for what we're doing on the field and not scandal. I've heard him say that a million times. But you're right. I mean, that would be the thing that could change, where they're not always having to punch above their weight. Because I just don't know. He talks about, we got to help, got to increase revenue, got to ticket sales, all those things, and they do. But when you have the 50,000 seat football stadium, you're just kind of landlocked on that, right? Whereas these other schools have 75,000, 80,000, 100,000 seat stadium. I mean, it's just like, you're just, and the Penn State play-by-play guy just showed me the renovations they're doing there and added on there. It's like, holy cow, Penn State needs to be bigger, So that's, you're right. I think that is the next, that would be quite a legacy to leave if you could find that person or persons.
Anything else, Burnsy, you want to talk about administratively? We got all summer to keep following up. I know you've always got thoughts and feelings, but we were
I'd rather my
the
text messages and phone calls stay clear, knowing I'm 48 hours from trying to be out on Lake of the Woods. So,
all right,
it is interesting though with the whole revenue discussion, because as Chip alluded to, even with fundraising, I've heard the same things, that it's going well. Now, what does that mean? How can you actually show that? Because one of the things I've talked about with them is, like, we can see it in whatever the fiscal year report that comes out, but then they'll point to, well, a lot of it too is now going to Dinkytown athletes, which as it should. But guess what? We don't get a financial statement from the NIL collectives, nor does anybody across the country. So it's tough to then try to present that to your consumers, the fans, that, yeah, it's going really well. Well, they don't know specifically how well it's going. So that's kind of the battle that Coyle and, again, Derek Burns and Robert Gegg and these guys got to continue to fight, is like, we want to stop punching up above our weight in those quotes here in the next 3 to 5 years. Well, how do we get there? That's what they're trying to figure out.
Lastly here, we should mention, it was Monday when we learned that a legendary Minnesota reporter and media member, whose name should be familiar to all of you, Larry Fitzgerald Sr., passed away. His son Marcus, who played at Marshall after Larry played at Pitt, Larry Jr., who's going into the Hall of Fame a little bit later this summer, in just a couple of months, passed away here locally. And that was a surprise. I guess it wasn't if you were around more. He had not been around as much. And that was the one thing, Chip, about Larry Fitzgerald Sr. He was going to be around, right? He was going to be at the Wolf. He was going to be at press conferences. We've had some funny, Fitz Sr. stories at Gopher press conferences in the middle of the day. To me, he was like kind of the closest to Sid in terms of like what he could get away with. Like what football coaches specifically kind of let him do, because I think they respected, kind of his legacy, obviously with his son, and they all knew Junior, and Junior would come and work out there in the summer. So there was kind of that, but I know it's a tough day for a lot of people that knew him a lot better than I. But I thought we should certainly mention it as a guy who covered sports in this town for a really long time.
Yeah. And I knew him quite well, obviously. And it, I guess it's still surprising when you hear, but I hadn't seen Fitz. I didn't see him at the Wolves. Somebody said he was at the Twins a few weeks ago. But I obviously got to know him well through Junior. When I moved here, I started covering Junior as, a receiver at Holy Angels, and spent some time with him at Pitt during the year he finished second at Heisman, went to the Heisman Trophy hung out with him there, and just got to know Junior really well and consider him a friend. So it's hard. I mean, the one thing about Fitz Senior was he was very proud of Junior and Marcus, and he,
absolutely,
what him and his wife Carol did, the late Carol did in terms of giving back and being using your platform to help other people and do great things in the community. I mean, both Junior and Marcus, I mean, they did that and then some. So it's a sad day. And obviously he's a pioneer in this media market in terms of his work with newspapers, radios. Dennis Green, obviously, he had a big part in his career with the radio show that he did. So, just my thoughts are with Junior and Marcus. And I mean, I know it's a tough time for them.
Absolutely. All right. Lastly, I'm trying something new on the Parent of Spare podcast because we just spent the last 20 minutes talking about how crazy college sports are and how stupid they are. And, Burnsy's had to get an accounting degree on the side to figure out how to cover all these things. But I'm still a romantic enough to believe that
I know what we're going to do.
At the core of it, college sports can still be college sports. Let's see if this even works because, I don't know StreamYard like I do. Oh, man. Is it working?
There it is.
There it is. Man, I might start crying.
Chip's voice, anybody wondering? He's starting to sing along now.
All right.
Wow.
I mean, how do we top that? I've watched that 4,000 times since last night. That, by the way, West Virginia advances to the Super Regional against Kentucky. They melted down. I was watching the whole game. They melted down late. It's an elimination game for both. They end up winning it, and then they do that. Like, my God, are college sports the greatest?
When you did that, I watched that video 10 times this morning, Guard, before he came on here. For the people that didn't see it, like when you hear that voice, it's one of their players. He has his headphones on. He's going to do a post-game interview with, I assume, ESPN. Did you hear his emotion when he started singing that?
Yes, of course.
Well,
you could see baby. It. The whole thing. A packed stadium singing the school song, the traditions. For baseball, too. Like, yeah. I love that they're televising all these games, but my God, I'm tearing up now, and I've seen it 5 million times.
my on my bucket list is to go to Morgantown. Now you have to they have to win, right? They only sing it after wins, I believe. I would love to be in attendance when, I don't know how many people go there, 65,000, 70,000 people, whatever, sit in their stadium, are singing that after a big win. I would be a blubbering mess, and I have nothing to do with West Virginia, but just Correct. To be able to do
I've never been to West Virginia. The only thing I know about West Virginia is Don Plitzolite was there for a year, and Pat McAfee likes him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Is there anything better than college sports, Burns?
No.
You think about how cynical you've become, how you're always mad about budgets and assistant salaries, but you get that magic. Good job by ESPN too, by the way. Yeah. I want to make sure we credit it. I don't know the rules. To do that, I mean, great job in the truck. Great idea to not cut away to some highlight show, to stay in the moment. I mean, I'm going to watch that another 55 times today. Like, that's just how good that was.
I'm with Chip. I mean, that has been a bucket list item for me for a while. Shoot, at my own wedding, we were arm in arm and Country Roads came on. I mean, that's how much sentiment that song has for me. Now, again, I don't these two are laughing because I'm sure they're picturing me just trust me, whatever you're envisioning on a beach, my shirt wasn't on.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
He's got the
Not
cut
a
on the
rump
forehead
flowing.
from the canoe.
He's got the makeup on his nose is kind of coming off. His wife is crying for a different reason than the ball player did. She's like, "Oh my God, is this really what I signed up for?" Country
it's one of
roads
my
with these bros.
I mean, it's one of my favorite songs, and how I even learned about it, because this is how young I am, I guess, was like I found out that West Virginia, again, and I can't tell you how many. I've probably watched it hundreds of times. There's clips on YouTube of, to Chip's point, 40, 50, 60,000 West Virginia fans arm in arm just swaying back and forth singing that. I would love to take a weekend off, and me and Chip, Gargi, you can stay up here. You can keep up with your duties. I'll go down with Chip and just go witness what that feeling is like, because that's what this thing's about at the end of the day, man. Community, being a part of something, that's such a special moment. And those Kentucky West Virginia games, by the way, absolutely mad. Just some of the craziest baseball you'll ever see. I'm sad that series had to end, but heck of a deal.
Yeah, I went from that. I was watching that to then I started, getting in my feelings about all the songs at Oregon, that we talked about. What a great time that was, Burnsy. Yep. So then that turned into me watching the Matt Carney song, I think it is, Coming Home to Oregon. Then I went back to, Country Roads. Then I figured out that on bye week, which is MEA, there's a Oregon game in Eugene, and now I want to take the family there. Like, my night was ruined because of the West Virginia thing. But because all we see in college now are the negative headlines. I think West Virginia last night gave us a reminder, right, of why we all love it so much. And so if you're feeling down, just go about college sports, which, by the way, every day you can find a reason to. It's insanity. It was just the best. And I had to figure out and then they made me better, because I had to figure out how I could actually get that onto our stream, which, as you know, is not my strong suit all the time. So anyway, thanks to ESPN2. Anything else you guys want to add?
Nah, we're good.
That's it.
All right. Go to GopherIllustrated.com to get caught up on everybody that the Gophers just got commitments from. Read Chip's Q&A with Athletic Director Mark Coyle at Star Tribune. My boy's been working this week. These guys are getting the clicks. Chip Scoggins and Ryan Burns. Speaking of clicks, go to jackscafe.com to make your reservations for brunch, dinner, late night, date night, whatever you want. And we will talk to you next week on the